Mostly. Hey everyone, Dean here, and welcome to our continuing coverage of Ahsoka. We'll say season 1. This week we are talking part 5, Shadow Warrior. Joining me, of course, some fantabulous people. No, I'm just not talking about the people in the chat. I'm talking about the people up here too. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend from Smirking Reviews, my weekly cohort, Rob Stone.
Guy trying to right now adjust his camera. So
right,
while
folks,
I'm figuring out my life problems, I'm keep slipping in between worlds. Everybody, sorry.
Yeah, he's fighting with the Force.
Yep, I can hear the fight. What the heck? Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's me, and I've already taken up too much time. So let's talk about the real person that's here. There, our actual guest, Corrie.
Hey, hi everybody. I'm back. I have my lightsaber ready to go, and I'm gonna jump in. It's gonna be
excellent,
fun.
excellent. And of course, joining us live in the chat right now, Eric Scott. Already looking forward to what we're going to say. Also, really enjoyed that episode, Eric. I am so glad to hear that. Just in brief little strike news, as I try to do before all of these, it has been 4 months now since the writers have been on strike, about 2 months for the actors, and news just coming out via Variety, I believe, is that if this strike is not settled by October 1st, the whole season's gonna be lost, folks. It's all gonna be gone. You're gonna be watching reruns for months, which is an unfortunate thing and easily solvable by the AMPTP, the producers union, because writers have given their counteroffer back in August 15th. That's a month ago, folks, and haven't heard anything back yet. So this is how negotiation works. They make an offer, and then there's a counteroffer, and you go back and forth, and everybody makes little decisions and little sacrifices, and then you work something out, and we move forward. Production gets made, people get to go back to work, everybody wins. That's going to require the producers to come to the table, though. So as soon as they do, I am quite sure everyone else will be very excited to get back. And the motivation is, you can talk to the investors, the strike, the studios have lost more money since the strike began than they would have spent just satisfying all of the requests the DGA and SAG has made. So right now they're falling deeper and deeper in the hole, and the only ones that's going to be able to change it are the producers union. So hopefully they'll come back to the table shortly, so everybody can go back to work. But let's jump into this episode. This week, as always, with our guest, we like to ask the question, how has the series been going for you? And what did you think about this last episode specifically? So, Corrie, I know you've been waiting to talk Ahsoka. How has the show delivered for you?
I've really enjoyed it. I don't think it's like the best of the best. I'm not on board of, oh my goodness, this is the most amazing thing Star Wars has ever done. But I will say I am very happy with how they're presenting Ahsoka. How she's being, the actress who's portraying her is doing a great job, I think. And I think there's a lot of power in the stillness of Ahsoka, because before in The Mandalorian, we'd seen her show up and we'd seen a number of battles, but it's nice to see the moment of like Jedi knowledge being passed and the question. She's almost approaches it like an Eastern religion approach, or even a Judaic approach, like Judaism, of instead of answering the question, just asking another question, which I love. I like that sort of sense of calm that she brings and that sense of maturity that she has that we're seeing. So I'm just really enjoying Ahsoka, and I loved getting flashbacks to the Clone Wars. That just, my little heart was happy. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Rob, how about yourself, man? How did this last episode work for you? I know there was a lot of expectations coming into this, what we talked about last week. How did you think? How did Hayden perform for you? How did you feel that this episode continued the story of this season?
Well, I'm getting ready to bash the hell out of this one. No, I'm not. Sorry, I'm not gonna do that. I actually, despite I watched it twice. I really did like it a lot. It made me really again appreciate what Filoni's been doing, like for 20 years, basically. It feels like it's getting close. It's got to be at least 15 years since him and Tartakovsky made the original Clone Wars, shorts. I'm glad that they resolved some issues for characters that return them to the way we remember them, instead of this mystery person that just kind of popped up and again making us like, this is not a criticism of this episode. It is a criticism of how they've been dealing with the plot period, which is giving us this person that has had all this stuff happen off screen. And it's hard to believe that too, because of how much we've seen of her life already. Like somehow they just decided to, pull off of some story that we don't know. And while it's still quite possible that they're gonna show us that stuff, we're now done with episode 5. We've got 3 episodes left.
Yeah.
Or is it? Okay, so 3 episodes left. We kind of have to get to it, unless there really is going to be a second season or a movie or something. But I really liked that. Hayden Christensen did some really great, nuanced little stuff, little details in his performance. Not like, I wasn't concerned about whether or not he could step into this character, but why bring him in here? Why do this if you can't do something, like if he's not going to be allowed to do something with this? And it's nice to see. And look, George made a lot of movies, and I honestly don't think that the scripts for the original trilogy are that bad. But they're not but the prequels, like when you hear somebody else's words coming out of Hayden's mouth that's not Lucas's, you suddenly again see the potential that was there, and the potential that was fulfilled in the Clone Wars animated show. And I really felt like he even had cadences of the voice actor from Clone Wars in this performance. To me, I feel like he changed what he usually sounded like to fit the Clone Wars version, because we didn't get to see that version. We just saw the beginning and the end. Right. We didn't get to see the guy in between, and this gave it to us. It gave a lot of things to us, and it opened doors to other things that I guess I'll bring up later. But yeah, overall, and look, it wasn't great, but I'm not like it, and when I say great, it was really, really good. There are a couple of problems with it, but they were nothing that stopped me from enjoying it completely.
Right on.
So take that.
We're impressed that you're impressed.
We like to mix things up here a little bit. Well, I'm really excited that both of you enjoyed the episode. And in fact, everybody seems, from everything that I have seen, both last episode and this episode, seem to have really hit with most of the fans. And I'm excited about it. Even while it hasn't hit me quite so much. I mean, look, I got to be honest, sometimes I'm feeling like I'm turning into Murtaugh, I'm too old for this stuff. And maybe that's just the case. Look, I have liked this series so far. I think it is of the better of the Star Wars stuff that we've had recently. I don't know how much that is saying, but I definitely thought that it has turned out much, much better. It is very Star Warsy. I definitely have, I think, a greater attraction to the kind of the grit that like Andor had brought in. But Filoni is doing an amazing job with this, and there's a lot of great callbacks to the prequel series, to Clone Wars, to bring Hayden. I know he's very excited to come back, and I'm excited for people that are really big prequel fans. You know, I'm an original series guy. I've had my issues with Hayden's performance or characterization of Anakin. I don't put it on the actor so much. I think that is a lot of direction and just kind of choices, and he's had to deal with what he had to deal with. So the fact that he now has this opportunity years and years later to come back and revisit the character, and that there are so many people that are so excited to see him come back, I think that was great, and I'm really stoked about that. The issues that I have with, I think, the series so far, and even in particular this episode, which I'm going to say I enjoyed. I had issues the first time. I had less issues the second time that I watched it, and I think part of that was just getting rid of the expectations. Even when I go into there saying, toss your expectations, just enjoy it, it's going to be great, you know, some of that stuff still sticks with you. So I have to admit that I've done that. But I also think there was a lot of, one, the pacing is always a little bit slow in some of these episodes. I think some stuff was kind of really sort of drawn out. While I thought that the flashback sequences or world within world sequences were exciting, I'm not entirely sure the reason why they were there. And from what I've looked through the internet, there is a whole lot of different interpretations of what that was all about. We'll get into a couple of them. And sometimes it's good to have the audience, you know, have a, you know, choose it for yourself. You know, we want to leave a little bit of vague and people can come to their own conclusions. Sometimes that works. Sometimes that's not the best. If you just want to bring Hayden back, awesome. But I have questions. And the other thing is to be honest, I am so tired of the whole Senate stuff that's going on with, I mean, Carson. I just want to tell Carson to shut up like half of this episode. And I like the actor. I like the character in there. But I'm like, we got to go back. They're demanding messages. We got to let the goddamn shut up, Carson. We're doing stuff right here, man. That can wait 5 minutes. And again, I understand a lot of that is just me. But I also have to say, for an episode that was shown in theaters, 10 across the country, you didn't have to buy tickets. They were free if you could get them. I think they sold out like 5 minutes before it was announced, basically. Super quick. Like, they announced and they were all gone. There was a lot of great cinematic stuff. The whole opening sequence I thought was very beautiful, going down the planet, coming across the ocean, up onto the ruins and everything. Really very nice. And even the worlds within worlds and stuff was great. The volume stuff, I think, worked mostly for the dream sequence, though we also saw some of its limitations, I think, in this as well. But they did a lot of, if you're going to choose an episode to put on the big screen, this definitely was the one to do it. With the grace, the purrgils, the space, the opening, the worlds within worlds, the large, you know, very cinematic characters on full opposite sides of the screen, really, I think, sort of paid off. So Filoni has done a great job at recreating Star Wars for now from a visual standpoint. And I think this was a beautiful example of his vision in doing that. And I think that's definitely in part of his strength. Sometimes, though, if he could just pick things up a little bit, just a tiny bit. I know he loves his characters. Sometimes he just dwells on them a little too much, in my opinion. So look, it sounds like I was going to do what did we like and what did we didn't like, but it sounds like most of the stuff people like. So I think we'll find this all in these moments. So let's dive right into our worlds within worlds. Let's talk about the whole Anakin, Hayden flashback sequence, all of those moments. Corrie, how did this work for you? Were you a big prequel fan, and how did this work for you? How excited were you to see Hayden back? I'm curious.
I grew up with the prequels, so I'm naturally biased towards them because, I mean, I was first introduced to the classic Star Wars, but then my high school years were during the prequels. So that was a big thing for me, and I did like the prequels. So yes, I was very happy to see Hayden back. I think part of it was I'm happy to see him finally being appreciated for the actor he is, because he got a ton of flack. Doing the prequels, people didn't like how he played Anakin, and it divided the fandom. And the sad part of it was he got all the backlash, very similar to how Ahsoka was not liked at first, the first year of Clone Wars, and then people warmed up to her. So on a personal note, I'm just glad to see his character and the actor being appreciated again, which is yeah. I mean, as soon as he called her Snips, I was happy. I was, but that's because I also watched Clone Wars and the animated series, so I have a lot of connection to Ahsoka through that and Anakin's character. So I mean, he didn't really have to do very much to get me on board and excited, but I did like the scenes. It felt almost like we were just getting a live action version of Clone Wars, which I was fine with. It was nice to see what could have been on the big screen if they had taken Clone Wars and gone the way of a film as opposed to an animated series. Surprised to see another actress playing little Ahsoka. So that was neat. And it kind of hit home how young she was while she was being involved in a battle, in a war. I'm like, is she a child soldier? Is she technically a child soldier? Is this what we've done as the Jedi? I don't know if this is morally correct anymore.
It's the era of Coney 2012. Yeah.
So I mean, when it was in animation, sorry, it was a lot easier to swallow when we were seeing it in real life. Then you start asking more real life questions about the scenarios. So that was kind of what I was thinking about, and yeah, it was just neat to see a live action version, essentially, of what I had watched in an animated form, and see how that was brought to life.
Yeah, I thought they made some fun choices. It was I think the opening was the Battle of Ryloth, what they went back to, which was in the first season. I think it was also in the movie and then revisited during the first season as well.
Yeah, when she lost all of her men and made a bad decision, and
right,
that weighed heavily on her.
Which becomes sort of the big first of the little trials here. But I do want to jump back real quick and Rob, maybe I'll throw this off to you and then jump back to Corrie here. What was the lesson that Anakin was teaching? Because we have to finish. I'm here to finish your training. How was he doing that? I mean, these were really interesting, and they do give good moments back into Ahsoka's life. And you could, again, there's tons of theories out there right now on what the lessons were in this and what the Anakin teaching. So why do you think this was happening? What do you think that Ahsoka was overcoming and needed to overcome for this sequence?
Well, I think, and I'm trying to put this simply, and you know how all of the internet overthinks, we overthink. Again, I think because this Ahsoka got to this point off screen, it makes it harder for us to understand what's the point of this, because we don't really know what's wrong. We just know there's some beef between her and Sabine because of their past, again, that we don't know. So all I can think is that somewhere in that story that we don't know is she's just tired of the fight, and that she needs to remember what she cared about, you know, when she was young, thrown into this, and having to deal with what she signed up for back then, what it was supposed to be, and what it was for her. Unfortunately, we don't know. We can't, and none of us can predict what era and what the situation of the world is going to be like when we're born. And so she was a soldier child. I mean, we're talking about it like that, right? There's a problem with that. And I think that is probably, for the audience, at least for us to understand, something that, is maybe is easily overlooked in animation.
Yeah.
Which is, she's been changed from a child. She was killing people. She was helping to kill. And now she's been fighting her whole life, and she's trying to train, things went bad with the training of this person, and I think she's ready to give up because of all the things she's done. But again, we didn't see a lot of some of that stuff. And so I think the flashback to the Clone Wars is kind of showing her PTSD to situations. We all know, like, if you watch the Clone Wars, her compassion and her connection to the clones was like a big deal for her arc, and it still remains to be so. And it's one of the most satisfying parts of the Clone Wars, is how much they were able to focus on some really great clone characters because of that connection. And so I think that's, I have more to say about this, but that's what I think mostly about this, and I'll pass it back.
Okay. Corey, what about you? Is that what you picked up? Did you gather something different from there, or what lesson? How was Anakin completing her training through this journey?
Yeah, I thought of two things. One is that she still has a hang up over Anakin and her training and him being her like, she still talks about him as her master, even when he's not there. Like, when she's talking to other people, it's like, well, my master never got to finish my training. And so I think part of this was her wanting to be finished and be released and be like, your training is done, you're complete, you're a Jedi, you're done, you can now move on. And so I wonder if part of that was him basically saying, I'm giving you your last lesson, you can now, like, I release you, or you can stop hanging on to the memory of me, and your desire to, be complete, because she never really finished her training. She left, right? So there's this talk about, well, you left the Jedi. Also, Anakin never finished her training. So she doesn't feel like she's really a Jedi, or she feels like she's lacking something. So in one way, he could be finishing that for her. Also, she talks about her legacy, his legacy, which is passed on to her, was a legacy of death. But then at the end, he's trying to force her to fight him, which would be death. And she says, no, I choose life. And she throws away the lightsaber. And that's when, like, basically everything ends, right? The dream or the sequence ends. And so I wonder if it was to push her to that point where she chooses life. And it's like, no, this is what I'm doing. And I finished my training. And I can step away and pursue life.
That is a fair one as well. Looking in with the chat, was it? I just want to be sure I give this the right credit. From Eric.
I mean, I agree with that too. I mean,
yeah,
there is this kind of release. There is that thing that's always been in the back there of a non-resolution between these two. So yeah.
Well, and there has been a certain discussion about the whole life thing. It was Silva who had mentioned it, thinking that it was all in Ahsoka's head. And that's one of those things that you can put out there. She was knocked off the cliff. Is she in the world between worlds and actually doing this? Is this as her body is dying, her spirit is fighting whether to survive, so she has to choose, is it to live or to die? Is she going to give up or not? Which I think those are all good arguments. The scenes we've seen, it's the Battle of Ryloth. It's one of the earliest battles as Ahsoka just became Anakin's Padawan and has to make decisions, and those decisions get people killed, and she has to start to live with the consequences. And then we see her again at the Battle of Mandalore, where Anakin wasn't. And you can see the difference. The more of the warrior that she has become, the lightness that was kind of in her earlier is now a lot more focused. Is to choose life to regain part of who she was that she might have lost because of that child soldiering. There's also the self-blame for Anakin because she was on Mandalore. That's at the same time that Order 66 was given, that Anakin became Darth Vader. The guilt is, if he was with me, if I hadn't left the Jedi Order at that point, could I have prevented him from becoming Darth Vader? And that was part of the thing that we had in the Rebels series, where she uses the line is, "I will not fight you," and here it's, it's,
I won't fight you.
Yeah, I won't fight. Yeah. Basically doing that, choosing life, choosing to fight, kind of differential and such. So is she dealing with that type of guilt? To me, all of these are good and all of these are fun. And I think that they hit on a lot of interesting points. The issue that I have is all of this requires us to have seen these previous shows.
Yeah.
And for my wife, who's sitting next to me as we're watching this, she's trying to figure a lot of these things out. And while we do have little flashback sequences that can make connections, I believe, and that's one of the things that I think is endemic in a lot of the choices and a lot of the scenes in this show, is that there is more going on in Filoni's mind than it was actually coming up on the screen. I didn't necessarily get all of this conflict. Yeah,
that's kind of what my next thing was going to be, is that there's we're all talking about this theory, that theory. What does it all mean? It means basically everything. It means all of it. Everything that you're all thinking, just about, on some level, it's so dense. There's a lot of complexities to this stuff because there's been so much lore and so many different things that it really is all of it. And that's what's kind of great, but also kind of frustrating because of how much is left to interpretation, because no one's wrong and no one's, 100% right. And everybody wants to have it nailed down. And I think Filoni's kind of saying in this moment, because I really think this is like the artsiest, let's call it, like, seriously. It's the word I'll use for Ahsoka. It's the artsiest version of Star Wars I've seen because of just how much he cares about this. I can just see all this stuff that, like you said, he's trying to put so much out there that it's good. It causes great discussions, but it's frustrating for people who want some solid answer. And I think that in some way, in a good way, this is telling us that it doesn't need to have one answer. And for somebody who's sitting there and wants to feel inspired in some way, there are so many things to be inspired by in this, if you choose to, because a lot of people and a lot of young kids and stuff, including ourselves when we were young, took a lot of some of these things to heart in the back of our minds about how we do things and how we want to live. And so this is kind of a big Filoni's, like, it's good that we're actually talking about Star Wars in this way. It elevates the material from just stormtroopers and Jedis and stuff. It humanizes all of it, makes it more relatable. So the more frustrated you get, I think it's actually doing its job in this respect. And so, and people, somebody could say, well, that's a cop out. I want a definitive answer. And it's like, that's not where life is, man. Okay.
Well, sure. And I agree that the definitive answer isn't necessarily important, but I think you need to give the audience the information they need to understand these conflicts.
Absolutely.
Coming into it. And I think that's the thing that they kind of don't do very well. I mean, I'm not seeing at this point an Ahsoka that is ready to give up, that is hampered by weight and stuff. There's issues, there is stuff going on. And yeah, if her feelings of not, being a good Padawan, or what she had to go through with a Padawan, is affecting her now taking on and training Sabine, that's great. Dive into that a little bit. That sounds good. If she's carrying the weight of Anakin on her, and even, you know, and there's been a couple of little mentions, but it's been almost passing and almost taunts that in her stoic nature she's thrown off. Without having this background information, I personally think that it would be very hard to really understand why these things are happening. Not even being able to necessarily draw a conclusion, but like, why is this? What, huh? And you're right. And they do it with some amazing stuff. There are some great moments that was mentioned in the chat too. The flashes to Vader as Anakin is walking away and then coming back towards her and stuff. Just beautifully done. While the volume does have its limitations on what it can do, you know, it's definitely easier to make everything in fog and shadow, so you can only just get little hints of anything outside of your little area. From a dream standpoint, a flashback, a middle of war standpoint, that's not that bad of an image. And like you said, Rob, makes it very artsy. And it is kind of fun to go back and again revisit these little areas and have even Anakin wander through like, God, I don't remember this battle. Well, that's because you weren't here, sucker. You were out doing the bad thing with the Palpatine, man. What's up? You know. And by the way, yes, Ariana Greenblatt is the actress that plays the young Ahsoka. She was also young Gamora in Infinity War. Silva, you were quite right there. She's also, I think, in Barbie right now, which I haven't seen. But yay, good for her. So awesome. Keep doing all that stuff. Disney's a good company to work with. They'll give you a lot of work. I don't know if they'll pay you, but they'll give you a lot of work if you're good. So yeah, any other little bits of this lightsaber enjoyments fights? Corey, what do you have anything else to add into this discussion here in our little flashback bit?
I liked how they played the dialogue for Anakin and Ahsoka. We saw echoes of what they were previously like.
Mm-hmm.
I also like that we get to see kind of how Anakin was approaching his training of Ahsoka, because he tells her, like, well, when I was learning under Obi-Wan, we were peacekeepers, and then suddenly we weren't. And now my job is to teach you to be a soldier and to teach you how to lead and to survive. And if you want to survive, you have to fight. Like, in a way, it kind of came across as he's not as thrilled as she is also, but this is the reality of the situation. And so we're in a war, and so we're fighting, right?
Right.
You know, you can't use the old approach when you're in a war. Peacekeeping won't work, at least not if you have a lightsaber with you, right? And then I like that they still kept his humor. You know, they had that comment about she gets mad because he's joking. He's like, "What do you want me to be serious?" And then those kind of like turn backs that he would do with the little smirk, and so that I liked that they put that throughout, and we kind of had this playful nature until he started becoming Darth Vader. So
yeah, fun transitions there too, from young to slightly older to turned Anakin. I like how they kind of really accentuated those moments.
The scar that was there, but then it wasn't there when she finally got through to him. So I don't know, maybe that last moment of her not wanting to fight was her redeeming herself, like being able to get through to Anakin and change him back, which she wasn't able to do in real life.
Fair. Rob, thoughts, additions, comments, cool moments?
Well, this will probably get into like some of the stuff that you were thinking about a little bit, because I mean, I'm gonna be of two kind of minds, I think, of this, because we've been discussing how the prequels are just, you know, whatever for so many years, right? Just so long. It's like those are the times I actually feel old, folks, when I put into context how long we've been complaining about the prequels, when we were waiting for the damn prequels since 1983. So sitting there watching the prequels originally, I was like 24, 25, around that area. And sitting there just seeing all this that could have been while I'm watching it. And this episode, whether or not because here's the thing, there's the part that like hits me is like, why though? Like, what? Like, why Anakin? Why like this? Why isn't he a Force ghost? Like, wouldn't it make more sense to just have him be the Force ghost version? He's out there, right? I mean, at the end, he's there. That version is at the end of the new the updated version or whatever, the latest updated version of the Star Wars original trilogy. So and again, needing to know more about the story to why this is happening in the first place instead of just getting kicked there. When it happened with Ezra, there was this like what like, and it felt like this one time kind of like this is not going to be every episode. It's like, let's get to the world between worlds, gang. We're about to get into real trouble. You know, like, no, this is like a very unique, special moment. So to redo it again, it really needed to make more sense to me. Again, if they had dealt with the Ahsoka Sabine stuff in the first 2 episodes, showing why they're like this, this would come, we wouldn't be asking these questions, because I didn't address what you were saying, which was they need to tell the audience, including people that hasn't watched all of this, something. And as much as a love letter like we can see this is, you know, it's the one time I think the studio should have maybe said, we need to move this from here to here for better context, but the studios, what am I talking about? If they're not paying attention to the scripts, if they're not paying people right? You know, if all they're doing is ching, I don't know why I'm using an old timey.
That's how they're. No, that's literally how their accounting system works. That's the problem.
Ding, ding, ding. So I guess I shouldn't expect that much from them, but outside of that kind of brain problem that I have, where, you know, 2 things existing in the same space, you know, kind of thing. It was so great to see again what Hayden was able to bring to this despite that. And I got to see what he would look like as a hero, because they were missing that. One of the problems I think that the prequels had is we didn't get to see the heroic side. He was just emo, smarmy, teenage dick with some of the worst dialogue we've ever heard in cinema. Go from that to this finally. Get to see even an inkling in that little open crack of the door they opened here. For me, just was like, I kicked that door down. And I automatically was like, can you imagine if they'd made, you know, Clone Wars live action with these guys, you know, like a long time ago, or made movies where they were like, why aren't we putting this on screen? Why aren't we getting Hayden back? Maybe, you know, like, who knows why or what, but it just made me go, I want to see this now. Like, this is what I wanted the show to be right here. Let Rebels and Thrawn be their own thing. And just give me Tales from the Clone Wars, where we get to see young Ahsoka and Hayden go through this crazy change and get somebody else's, I don't know. I guess you just don't put I guess you just de-age Ewan McGregor. See, this is the rabbit hole this set me down. Was like seeing something good, seeing something pay off. Because remember, in Obi-Wan, with all the problems everybody has, and there's legitimate problems, but there's also the side that I was on, which was, I just want to see Hayden and Ewan together again, getting into it. I know how it's going to end. I don't care. Just give me that. And they gave me that, and then this gives me more. I didn't even know he was going to be in this until late in the game. And so this makes, you know, it worthwhile. I mean, if this had blown up, if this had been bad, if this hadn't worked, I'd say it. But like, it won me over with just the way that they framed all of it, and the young, like how he's there, and then he's different age, and her. Oh, I was so happy to see a young Ahsoka. Because remember, I've been talking about the low energy performance that seems to be present day. So I got to see, even if it wasn't like all the way, but we got to see her kicking ass. She's messing with Mandalorians, man. This like is, so like when you start to, like I said, you open that door crack to what could be. People like me are going to kick the door down and say, that's what you should have been doing. Right here, you've got it. But they'll move on and they'll do something else. And that scene with her and the clone, again, kept showing what she's always been like. And him, like, again, maybe it doesn't make sense logically, but these conversations that, like, needed to happen and the way that he looks at her and talks to her, it's so much different in live action. And if it was a lesser, like if it wasn't, it's still, like I said, it could have gone bad, but it's like this guy's been holding it all in. Like I had this performance, I've had this performance ready for 20 years, and I'm finally getting to do it. So whatever it meant, why it's here and all that stuff. And like I said, it didn't stop me from enjoying it, because not only was this necessary for the character, the resolution, and whether or not you like how they handled it, fine, that's up to you. It just shows that these stories, they don't always have to start out with a bang, as long as the journey keeps getting more interesting as you go along. And so far, that's what this episode has helped do for the rest of the series, which is just give it more boosts towards the end, to where it's just going to be like, oof. And I actually think that they should start experimenting with like Ahsoka Part 1 in theaters, and then Ahsoka Part 2 in theaters. Like, see if there's money and, people wanting to see this on the big screen in chunks, like they're already doing here. And that's it. That'll be what I have to say.
Just want to mention Eric Scott in the chat, definitely mentioning the lightsaber battles in this show. He has really enjoyed. I did love young Ahsoka spinning around and doing the things. Even the real Anakin, we got back a lot of his stylings of the swinging and spinning and attacking, which, whatever. That's his style. That's the one that he's established, and that's what we've gone through. And it's good to see that kind of played in. So, I think they had a lot of fun in doing this, and I think they pulled most of it off. As I said, I get a few things here and there, but I have to say, I got a feel for Hayden to be able to come back and I can come back and finish and play this character and do this without wooden dialogue, or less wooden dialogue at the very least. So I'm excited for him, and I would be stoked for him to get a chance to show some more of that. So, of course, while all of this is going on, we have things happening in the real world, specifically Hera jumping down with Jacen, who's starting to act a little bit like his father. I have to say, the lightsabers and the crashing waves, that was cool. And Hu Yang even standing at the edge looking down when they first run into him, and he's just got the helmet, and he's just like, I told them to stick together, but they never listen. It's just such a great, beautiful, perfect setup right there. Like I said, visually they've done a great job in this. And I mean, this was all pretty straightforward stuff. Just we're gonna fly around until we get some information, and then throw a diver in the water and pick her up, which again felt all very nice. Though to me, this was kind of where we touch on the weaker area of this episode, and I complained about it last time, and I will continue to claim about it because I think they do it stupid. I think they could have found a good reason to create a conflict, and they didn't. They're just like, you flew off when we said you couldn't fly off, so now you're in trouble. you're gonna have to come back to the Senate and tell everybody what you did wrong. And it just felt like that. I mean, look, if she wanted the fleet, she got the fleet, I guess, technically, to the planet a little late. You know, we're not going to send it there to investigate something, but we'll send it to go after a general and 3 X-wings. And then even the getting called back part, that was the one thing I didn't understand. And I know we only caught part of the conversation, but yes, you don't have Morgan Elsbeth in custody, but there was a giant ship with huge hyperdrives that took out 2 of you. I mean, that seems like important information that might help her case, and yet was not set up. And I know we're only getting this, and plot-wise, this is so we can have a big argument and then have to come back in a couple of episodes when Thrawn returns. And look, if I hear one more mention of fuel in a Star Wars show, I'm out. I don't care. I don't ever want to hear we're low on fuel ever again. Honestly, that's really my biggest rant for this episode. I just really hate this subplot. Seriously, just have her fleet supposed to be somewhere else, and it can't do its job if she's not there. That's a reason. Sorry, I'm going off. Corrie, save us. What did you think of the whole back in the real world bit with Jacen and Hera and Carson and everyone?
Yes, okay, I will agree that it could be more polished and there could be stronger reasons for what they're doing and why. It felt like they were just trying to patch up the loose ends as quickly as possible, right? But I didn't hate it. It was okay. And I will say they changed my opinion on Jacen, because the previous episode we were talking, or I watched your review. Mm-hmm. Big fan. No, I am though. I watched your review, and you had mentioned, like, why is she bringing her son into a potential war zone? This is not smart. But then I think they redeemed it with him starting to manifest his force skills and force sensitivity. And he actually served a purpose. Plus, I like that by the time they showed up, they'd missed the whole battle anyway. So there really wasn't a risk for Jacen to begin with, right? Mm-hmm. So I think how they did that was smart. And I did have concerns at first. I'm thinking, so his dad's a Jedi, therefore he's a Jedi? It's like force sensitivity genetics? But then I remembered Luke Skywalker, Anakin, the force is strong with this one, as he's like, flying after Luke. So technically, yes, I guess force skill is genetic. And then if it is, why aren't the Jedi getting married and having lots of kids? Because then we'd have stronger armies.
Because there'd be attachment, and then you'd have dark side, and there'd be choices. Plus, you have additional taxes. You got health coverage. I mean, but the costs just start to balloon there for the Jedi Temple.
All right. So yes. So I was having these little moments of aha, but oh wait, but aha, as I was picking through the storyline. But yes, and I do love our little Hu Yang. He's the sweetest. I think Star Wars does the most, human-esque robots. They can pull out our heart, metaphorically, with these robots. So
they are quite gifted with their droid design. They have far more hits than misses, I think. Even the little gonk droid's kind of cute in his own way.
Mouse droid.
Yeah, see?
Come backwards.
Rob, any thoughts on our Hera Carson bits?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. That shot though, yeah. That shot at the beginning where they just come around the corner and for a second I don't know what I'm looking at. Do you know what I mean? I should know right away who it is, but for a second I didn't know what I was looking at, and I was like, oh. and Tennant's tone to the way he was talking about it, like if a robot could be heartbroken, that's what that would sound like. And at the same time, the robot was also like inadvertently telling me what I've been saying, which is like the show's mad at itself for this still going on.
Mm.
Like these things are so easily resolved, and again, I hate repeating myself. I should have a shortened way of saying things that are not happy, things we haven't seen happen. I guess it's not that hard to say. But this is where everything seems to stretch to that 44 minutes. This 51-minute show that's cut down to 44 minutes after 5.5 minutes of end credits. So 44 minutes, and I'm about to sound like such an idiot because of how much we complain about the length of these episodes. But this episode should have been a lot shorter. The pacing of this episode was just
Tighter.
Let's get to a long. Oh, they want longer episodes. We'll give it to them. We'll have really, really long, pointless subplots and really, really, really long artistic shots that are supposed to yes, it looks great on my TV. It does. It's nice having a big TV where this can look, but it still doesn't look like it should because this is a big epic moment that's cinematic for theaters. So you got to move a little bit faster for television. That's for the movies. I appreciate it in small doses, and you guys they're really putting it out there and making things pretty. But between that and the actor who plays Carson, this was not his strongest outing as this character. He's been better.
Yeah. He's
been better in this show. The scene where he's talking to them though later, like I don't want you guys shouldn't be here, like I'm gonna like he's making it up as he goes along. That was funny. But like the stuff on the planet where Huyang says like, oh well, Jacen has abilities, and he's like basically like I thought of Chief Wiggum all of a sudden, like, I guess we just gotta go over there and just forget about it and go have a donut. Where's Ralphie? Like he just kind of like, I guess so. I guess that's just what we do. I'm a rebel pilot, and so I just go along with this Jedi story. Okay. Like he could have had a little bit more stronger presence, maybe. I think that they didn't really give him a strong like argument to be able to have. The writing just wasn't there because it's so just the Senate's coming after you. Like, so what? This is Star Wars. What does she expect? It's there so that she can say, what's the point of having a little, what's the point of having this job if I don't get to, rebel? I'm a rebel. Again, it's just to remind us, guess what? Hera's a rebel. Secrets out, everybody. She's going to do what she wants to do.
I'm a rebel.
I mean, and just throwing out Leia's name, like Senator Organa and blah, 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 like, don't try to just slip these things by to make it okay for, this dragging it out. They said the name. They said a name I know. And then seeing Mon Mothma just, again, from where she is in Andor and to be such a, like, I'm sorry, it's just politics. Gotta have to, like, get out of here. But I mean, again, it's in between really good stuff. So, but the Jacen stuff was good. I admit, like, again, after second viewing, after another episode, it's nice to see that. I mean, it's a little, again, like him going, do you hear it, Mom? The waves, and there's something with the water. I was a little concerned because I was just like, it feels like they're just trying something, like, we got to figure out where she is in the water. And it just felt a little like, a little dumb, but like they played it so straight that with the visuals and everything and the actors making you believe it, it helped a lot because it was a powerful scene. It's just kind of the reason why, again, why? Like, there's a lot of like, if you go like that, but to be fair, that's in a lot of movies. That's in most movies.
Sure.
Even your favorite movies. If you sit there and think about a scene in a movie, in your favorite movie, long enough, you will probably reach a, wait a minute, why? And you don't want to burst that bubble in your head because once it's burst, it's not getting put back together. It's always gonna be you having to look past the thing you now notice. So just enjoy it for what it is, folks. Try not to dig too deep in it because then you end up like us.
Well, and at the end of Rebels, when they did first introduce Jacen, he was introduced as was it Phoenix 7, whatever, as part of the Ghost crew. You know, we've had one more addition to the Ghost crew, and he's there in the passenger seat. So I guess they kind of intimated that point is that he's a regular flyer on that. But yeah, bringing your kid into a combat zone, they justify it for sure. Glad he was there. May not have made sense initially, but they made it work. And yeah, with the Carson stuff and the whole thing with Mon Mothma, to me, I would have given the show ultimate praise if Gary Cole popped in at the end of one of those discussions talking about TPS reports. That would have been it. I would have loved it, and it would have gotten everything I needed.
Also, I just want to say, hey, chat, you guys are doing great tonight. Nice seeing everybody in there.
Yes, indeed. General Grievous actually joining us right now in the chat. May the force be with you too, sir. Eric Scott in here. We had Ramona Floyd jumping in and Silva Surfer jumping in as well. It's been a while since we've seen Silva, so always happy to see you.
Speaking of General Grievous, I'm just saying, Disney, who wouldn't want to see a young Anakin and a young Ahsoka fighting General Grievous in Tales from the Clone Wars?
Yeah,
coming 2025.
I think we've mentioned this before of doing one-off, tales from Star Wars or Tales from the Clone Wars, wherever, where you could cover all of these timelines and just do small little bits. I think that would be an awesome. And then you could just tell small, concise little stories and not have to worry about any of this giant explanation stuff that we all want. So. Obviously, their search for Ahsoka at least becomes successful. Dive in, find her floating in the water where all bodies that fall off cliffs over the ocean end up. And I'm sorry, I couldn't avoid the Gandalf references because she was always referred as a Grey Jedi, and then she comes out as Ahsoka the White. They even got the sun shining on her as she wakes up. And there's Hu Yang with her coffee. Ahsoka loves her coffee. I'm just going to call it that. It's coffee. I don't know. Maybe it's a juice. Maybe it's a tea. But she loves her drinks. She has them in hand more often than not, I think. And she does seem to have been a little lighter after all this. She's a little happier. She's a little more thoughtful. Maybe embracing a little bit of that kid in her, perhaps. But really trying to find Sabine. And they gave us a nice flashback. This is another one of those scenes that to me should have been much shorter. We just saw the episode where this dialogue happened, so replaying huge chunks of the dialogue I didn't think were really necessary. You could have done a little blend and stuff and just made that scene a little bit faster, which I think would have been more exciting than just camera spinning around her Michael Bay style as she's pondering what's happening. But then she also gets the idea of the purrgils. And I have to say, this was my favorite part. My big concern last week was they were going to use that world between worlds as a cheat way for her to get over to the other galaxy. And I thought that would have been a horrible choice. The idea to hitch a ride on the purrgils, where this route is already said a purrgil migration route, perfect solution. Loved every moment of it. I mean, again, the whole flying on the ship and standing on there and doing it with the big rising music and talking back and forth could have been a little tighter. Again, that's me. But I did love that idea. I love that ends up being the way that she's going to go off. And I even love the fact that with Hu Yang's complaints, like, well, this is going to take us to Ezra, right? I don't know. That's something. Let's give it a shot. Again, it's a little bit kind of a lightness, I think, to her, which, may be a significant character change that we'll see manifesting more going forward. But I did love this as a solution. I was surprised that they were still able to sneak up on a Republic fleet and just suddenly appear right in front of them to get told to have to get out of the way. They wanted to do the shot of the purrgils through the ships, and that looked all cool. But yeah, that was my one thing. Like, yeah, you better get out of the way. What? Oh, turn! How did they sneak up on you, man? Freaking pod of whales. But yeah, let's talk purrgil and wrap it up and heading off to the new galaxy. Rob, let's start this one off with you. What did you surprise? What did you think about this bit? Did you enjoy our Ahsoka the White? Have you seen a character change in her? How did you work all this out for you?
I mean, I didn't really like you guys pointing it out is like, I guess, more noticeable now. I didn't really care about the color change, like the whole like white. I didn't really see it, but I mean, I see it, but I didn't really like draw. It didn't draw my attention to anything. I just saw her energy change.
Okay, well, that's more important.
Yeah. And her, like, when you see her cross her arms for the millionth time, it's with a lot more energy. She's not just going all stately anymore. She's being more like, oh. No, I'm kidding, but like, no, there's an energy here that I wish was in the rest of the show, or at least most of it. And hopefully going forward, we'll see more of that. The purrgil thing was really cool. I just and yes, thank goodness this is the way they went. I don't know if anybody else predicted this in the last episode or not. Like if we had talked about how they were going to get there. I feel like we talked about it, but maybe in a different way.
Yeah, no, there was a concern, like I said, the world between worlds, but I didn't know. In fact, I didn't know if she was going to be waiting for them to come back. So
yeah, I guess I didn't remember that this was part of. At the time, I was like, "Well, that's real convenient that there happened to be popping by just now," but it still looked cool. Yes, I was thinking the same thing of like it's something they should have seen like 10 minutes before. Like something's on our screen. I don't know what is it like. What would have been funny is if it actually was shaped like whales, like in a spoof movie like Hot Shots or Airplane, where it's like, we have whales, sir. But it definitely gives us like a real like hope that it doesn't really like she's not concerned. She's just she knows where she's going. She feels like she's on the right mindset again, and I think that mindset is something that we can carry over into the next episodes. That positivity to where the story's headed next. And I think where we're headed next is, I think at least the A story is going to be great. The B story, maybe not so much. I mean, but who knows? Maybe we'll get like, Princess Leia again or something will show up and be like,
no, don't DH CGI me a Princess Leia again. Please, no. I can't take
I'm sorry. I'm just putting it. I don't know. Like that's the B story is probably going to be there might not even be a B story because honestly, moving between galaxies could kind of close the book on this galaxy until the end of the show. Because it seems to me like wherever they went is probably going to be where the crux of the last 3 episodes takes place. So
that's a good thought.
That's good.
Yeah. Corey? Anything?
Yeah, I do agree with Rob that there's I would say a playfulness to her again, and perhaps that is from her time talking with Anakin and sort of going back and remembering, even though it was scenes of a war, but it was them together. It was interesting that his sort of claim regarding her is he says you lack conviction, right? Almost in the sense that you're not certain of yourself anymore. And I think when she comes back, she has more certainty in who she is and what she's supposed to do. Even if she's not sure what the next step is, she knows she's at least headed in the right direction.
For sure. Yeah.
So I liked that. And I didn't mind it stretching out a bit because I was enjoying those like quiet little moments of Ahsoka being a Jedi, whether it was just like trying to be one with the Force or trying to listen to something, or even her just waking up and like sitting on the side of the bed and just sitting. I liked those moments. I don't know, maybe it was like Jedi meditation or Jedi ASMR or something, but I felt like I could watch 24 hours of just that, the day in the life of a Jedi. What are they doing? And I'd sign up for that retreat camp. Just be at one with the Force. So I didn't mind that. Another thing I liked with the conversations with Anakin is she says the legacy I'm a part of is death. And he challenges that. And he says, you're part of a legacy. In you is all of my knowledge, just like my master before me. And so it's not that you're a part of a legacy of death. It's that you're a part of a legacy of the Jedi. And that means the good and the bad, those who have fallen away, those who are still keeping the faith, for lack of a better term, right? You're all a part of that. Yeah, and then he says, you're more than just the wars that you went through because I'm more than that as well. So I thought that was an interesting perspective on what Ahsoka has been through.
Yeah, there was definitely a feel of a coming of full circle of re-examining and stepping past the limitations or doubts of the past to, like you said, have a more of a confident movement going forward. And as you said, Rob, more of an energy to her. So yeah. Again, this is another one of those series where when it's all done, I'd be real curious watching it all the way through like a giant movie, how this may, how the flow of it may feel a little different and how stuff might make a little bit more sense or connect a little bit more easier than maybe the kind of inconsistent lengths and stuff that we have with the shows that are coming out.
I also liked, like you had said, the whales, but I liked it because it connected the Jedi with like nature, which is something we traditionally know they're connected with, but it was nice to see Ahsoka communicating with another being that wasn't a human being and being able to communicate. And then Jacen mentioning like, oh, it's just like the stories you've told me, Mom, right? They have this otherly connection with the world around them, the Force around them, right? Yeah, so that was neat. I liked that.
Nice. Well, I'm not sure if there's any other thoughts. I think that covers pretty much the episode. Like you said, there are 3 episodes left going forward. My expectations is probably next episode's going to be a shorter one, and it's going to be the journey between the galaxies. Then that gives us episode 7 to do the search and the find of Thrawn. And then episode 8, the return back to this galaxy, where we may have a little battle with the fleet before, of course, Thrawn escapes and becomes the new big bad of the Star Wars television universe until he gets his movie. But I think the expectations with that is this storyline is supposed to overlay over the next Mandalorian and other stuff that may be going on for the TV series is here. So I think that'd be a great way. I certainly think Thrawn deserves to have a lot more time spent with him. So if you take that over a couple of seasons and integrate him, hopefully maybe a little more impactfully than say Moff Gideon was, I think that would be exciting. But again, That's just speculation, which we do at the end of all of these episodes. But yeah, other than that, let's see. Here in the chat, General Grievous, gotta listen to General Grievous, man. He outranks us all. Believes Ahsoka had to confront herself with being part of Anakin's legacy, and that not everything he taught her was bad. That she can use this training and still not succumb to the dark side, in their opinion. Yeah, I think there was definitely kind of an acceptance of things and moving forward and going, hey, even though this happened, maybe I can take the lesson moving that, but I'm not tied into it. For sure. I mean, at the very least, while I may question a lot of the specifics, the feel after that journey is definitely one that she has moved forward and is ready to better embrace the next things that have to happen from a more living sense, as opposed to feeling it's all war.
And also, how much is she going to take from that conversation with Anakin and now apply it to her Padawan, who has sort of broken away? Right?
Well, very much so. And there is kind of an interesting through line that we have, because much like Ahsoka was trained as a Padawan in the midst of war, so too will Sabine, in a way, if the war with Thrawn happens, that she will have to, and perhaps there is a hesitation in Ahsoka to go, I want to teach more than just fighting. She even said that with Hu Yang, I think last episode, the one or the episode before, that it's not just about the Force, it's not just about fighting. I think that she can learn something from our ways, from the Force, and maybe a hesitation of like, but I don't want it to be like me, just fighting. But I think we did get a movement forward in that. So I'm curious how that is going to play out with their relationship the next time that they meet up, and moving forward from there. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us for another long discussion. Always great, wonderful chat today. Really, Eric, General Grievous, Silva, Ramona, was wonderful having you in there. Some great little discussions. Corrie, you got any final thoughts? And do you want to tell anybody what you're doing?
Final thoughts? Oh, I'm just happy to see where this goes, and I'm hoping we'll get more Ahsoka. This won't be a one-off. I'm hoping we'll get maybe season 2. Fingers crossed. Lightsabers crossed. Dual lightsabers crossed. Yeah, you can see me on I have a Facebook page, CL Shoemaker, and I have a website, therightstuff.com, or just Google The Right Stuff. Corrie Shoemaker, author. You can find all my things that I'm into. So all the stuff I'm writing and publishing.
Very good. Y'all should go check that out for sure. Rob, do you got any final thoughts and anything you want to drop? Anything on Smirking Plays?
I think that it's really good that I hope that they spend, like you said, a lot of time on this threat that they're building up that will take a lot of room in the Star Wars universe for a while, because if since we're just, I guess, never getting away from the classic tropes here of stormtroopers and Empire and whatever, this is the way it's going to be, folks. It's still better. It's the longer they can stave off any stuff about the First Order and other things, that's fine. If that's got to be the new reality for now, I can handle another 10, 15 years without worrying about what happened after The Last Jedi, because I don't know what happened after The Last Jedi. So as far as I'm concerned, the series ended there. So, but in all seriousness, I do think that this is a good direction possibly for them to go in. Second, Jedi ASMR exists. I just looked it up. So it is. You can look it up. It's there.
Do we want to?
I just did the typing. The rest of you know that it's there. What you do with that information is between you and you yourself and I.
And your search engine. Yeah.
Yes, your search engine and yourself. And yeah, on Smirking Rob Plays, look, if you want to see more of my content or more what I have to say and stuff, we're playing Baldur's Gate 3, and I can't guarantee that every minute of gameplay is gonna be a banger, but I'm having so much fun playing it that I'm trying to make it fun, and I'm not even having to try. I'm so into this that I'm entertaining myself. So hopefully it's entertaining for other people. Watch me screw up playing Dungeons and Dragons. Watch me succeed playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's fun either way. I'm playing solo and with other people at times. So that's a lot of fun over at Smirking Rob Plays. Check it out. I'm not on camera because there's so much going on the screen. I don't even know where I'd go. So I need to know where all my equipment is, and my face is going to be in the way of it. So
That's
still
fair.
stop by and watch me play Baldur's Gate, because I'm cheating, man. I got my D&D manuals out for when I face monsters and stuff. So that's what's going on.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, and of course, you guys are watching D's Reviews. That's this channel right here. We're doing Ahsoka reviews 6 p.m. Thursdays for at least the next 3 weeks, because that's how many more episodes that we have left. Next week, Don Willie will be back joining us. We'll get to hear his thoughts on this show, and we get to find out if any of our speculation is going to come true. You can find us, like I said, right here, 6 o'clock live on Thursdays. And of course, you can always catch us in the archives. We got links to people's Twitter accounts in the description below. Also, a link to the audiobooks that I have read for your entertainment. You should check those out. Leave me a 5-star review. I'd appreciate it. Or at least let me know what you think. That would be also useful. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Be sure to support the WGA and SAG-AFTRA. If you don't need to renew any of your subscription streaming services, go ahead and drop them. I'm dropping Hulu at the end of this month. You know, we all got to tighten our belts. And why give people more money if they are not taking care of the people making your stuff? So let them know. Give people your support. You can go to sagaftra.org or wga.org to learn more about the strikes and what you can do to support the men and women behind your favorite shows. Until then, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you all next week. Take care now. Bye-bye.